Hi there. Welcome to Patrick's Scale Studio. My name's Patrick, and I'll be your host. Well, look at this messy workbench. The point of this video was not about my messy workbench. It was to review a model kit and kind of introduce a build log for one of the projects I'm going to be working on concurrently with USS Yorktown. So let me go ahead and get this cleared off, and I'll be right back. Okay, with the workbench cleared, let's go ahead and have a look what it is we're talking about. The main subject of this review video is going to be Verifire's USS Missouri BB-63 in 1945. It's in the scale of 1/350th scale, and it is a large box. I can go ahead and show the whole thing. Now, there have been several reviews of this kit out there, but I don't believe those reviews have been in this current boxing right here. Previous reviews had 3 sheets of photo etch. This came with 1 sheet of photo etch. The kit looks very inclusive, very well detailed, and according to everything I've read online, it's very, very accurately molded. So that's the box top. Go ahead and have a look at the sides of the box. Alright, so we've got some color callouts, but they're in Verifier codes for colors. That said, I'm sure, I know you can find all of the correct colors in 1945 out there on the internet. And right there is the description. So you can see the box is so long that description goes way past just being able to fit inside the entire screen of how I've got my camera situated. I'm not even going to attempt to show the small box ends. And here is the other side of the box. And we can see we've got some drawings here, various paint schemes, how it's supposed to look in the time period in which it's been molded. So, with that said, let's go ahead and pull the cover off this box. Alrighty. Right at the outset, we can see they've got 2 hole halves, and they are perfectly set in here, so there's very little wiggle room. It goes up and down a little bit, but not very much. But it's not going back and forth, and as you can see, it's not laying on top of any other sprues of parts. If I pull this out, in fact, that piece of cardboard comes with it. I'll go ahead and scoot this stuff aside for the time being. Let's have a look at these hole halves. We've already got the, I think those might be davits or tie downs. I can't be 100% sure. It's got the hose pipe holes already in the side. It's got some very slight plating detail here. It's really, really incredibly fine. It looks really well done. Not overdone, not out of scale. It's got the 2 bilge keels right there. You can see here we've got the areas for the propellers, and it's got 4 propellers. Here's what the bottom of it looks like. And there we go. Just take it out completely. Get rid of that. So there we can see. And it looks like we're going to have a couple of mold seams to deal with, but nothing that's going to be too difficult to get rid of. And it looks like it's in fairly unnoticeable spots in the hull, which is definitely a plus. Looking on the inside here, looks like we've got some locating pins. One thing I did note here is it's got already molded into the hull the mounting spot for the paravane chains, which is really cool. You don't see that on most kits these days, not even in 1/200 scale. But that's that for the hull. This looks to be fairly accurate from what I've seen online, so I can confirm what I've read online about this kit. This looks pretty good. I'm going to put this aside. And we'll start having a look into this gigantic box of parts. So right here, let's see, we've got pieces of the superstructure. And they've thoughtfully wrapped it in foam. I'll go ahead and undo that. Again, this is a build I'm going to be working on concurrently with USS Yorktown. And it's actually two pieces of the bridge. You can see we've got planking detail built into the tops here. On the sides, we've got fantastic detailing here. Now, it's not all the way around. It's just, it looks like the faces of these superstructure parts that are dead on or parallel on the slide mold. So we've got very crisp details. Looks like this is meant to fit right on top in a very similar fashion to how it was packaged. What I find to be particularly amazing is when I put those down, there's absolutely almost no seam line at all. It almost looks like one part. And again, fantastic detail for the slide molding. But look at that, there is no gap or anything underneath from this deck to this deck. That is wonderful. Same thing on the other side. Just incredibly crisp molding. The details there are astounding. I cannot wait to get started on this. Push that aside and we'll move on to the next sprue underneath it and we'll have a look. Without the annoying plastic getting in the way. Alright. So, looks like more superstructure parts. And it looks like these are the parts that are going to get fitted onto the main superstructure. And it is the sidewalls where they weren't able to do crisp slide molding on the main pieces. So these are kind of like add-on parts. Anytime you are up on this and you come across a blank face, it looks like that's what these parts are meant to do, is to be fitted onto there. Again, just to have really crisp detail that hasn't been skewed due to molding limitations. Overall, looks amazing. Looks like for the most part there are a few ejector pin marks here and there, but it looks like a good deal that is going to be hidden. We might be able to use some photo etch, which we'll get to later, in order to cover up. Fantastic. Very happy about that. Alright, this right here is 4 of the same sprues. So go ahead and open these up. Just going to bother opening up one and not both. It looks like here we've got parts for life rafts, 20mm Oerlikons, ship's boats, 40mm Bofors, various other fittings, anchor. Just kind of little different details, and these are absolutely tiny. Try to get that up there and get this in focus. Come on, camera. There we go. right. We've got 4 of these sprues. Go ahead and put those aside. All right, beneath this, it looks like we've got the decking. Let's have a look at this. I misplaced my number 11 blade X-Acto, so that curved one's going to have to do for the time being. Alright, looks like this is midships. And even if we weren't going to try to put together a wooden deck for this, I mean, that if you just wanted to do just the plastic, that's pretty clean as far as seams go in the model ship world. That's pretty clean. That would almost disappear as long as you glued the parts together correctly and made sure that you were real careful about it. That seam would all but disappear. And then with the additional details and everything like that that goes on top, you might never ever notice that again. Again, fantastic molding. Look at this. All right. And here is the front of the ship. You can see how those would line up there for the number 2 turret and barbette. And again, that seam line right there where these 2 pieces of deck meet, incredible, absolutely incredible. I just don't see that in so many other kits where you have to put together multiple pieces of deck in order to make just one flat piece there. The wood decking detail looks pretty good. This all looks very crisp. Again, just absolutely astounded at the amount of detail put into that. That's fantastic. Looks like we've got 2 of the same sprues in this bag here. All right. Rangefinders, rangefinder parts, other sensors. Very, very crisply molded. Let's see if I can get this to focus again. Verifier has done an outstanding job, in my opinion, so far. A 5-inch dual mounts right here. That's all these are. I mean, you even have the little raised detail surround on where the barrels come out of and elevate. You can make that out. Just kind of see a little bit of reflection off of those. Incredible. We'll move to the big boys here. Three identical sprues here. And it looks like the subject of these 3 sprues is the 3 16-inch triple mounts. And down to, those are supposed to be rivets on there. Now, at 1/350th scale, I doubt they could actually put the slotted screw heads on there. But it almost just look like, you know, regular raised rivets. In reality, they'd be the gigantic slotted screws. But the pattern on that looks identical to what you can find online. Great job there. And it also looks like they've got this molded so that everything beneath the turret, there's a good rough representation of what that would look like and what that would be like. Three barrels per mount. Feel pretty cleanly molded. I'm not even feeling a mold seam. Blast bags all kind of look identical, which is kind of a shame, but maybe at 1/350th scale it won't be such a big deal. But again, wow, what an incredible job molding this. This aside. And our next sprue here. Sprues, I should say. There's two of them in here. You know, one of the coolest parts after I opened the box and kind of briefly went through everything was there's no parts just floating around in bags. Everything has been packed with care. Everything is on the sprue where it's supposed to be. So that was a very nice surprise. So it looks like more superstructure parts, internal bracing for the hull halves, rudders. I mean, again, just, you can kind of see any of the glare coming off of that. Those are not rivets. Those, I believe, are zinc anodes. Look how thin that is right there, that splinter shield. Usually people use photo etch to get something that thin and that to scale. So, again, good job. Funnel, internal bracing, more superstructure. Here's our 4 propellers. We've got 2 4-bladed propellers and 2 5-bladed propellers. It's correct. Another rudder. So just again, what an incredible job. Nope. As we work our way that way, I missed these 2 here. Oh, cool. These right here. These are kingfishers, I think. Again, I'll try to get this to focus properly. In the glare of the light, how it's reflecting, you can see there's some very, very subtle panel lines in the wing. Very, very subtle panel lines on the fuselage. It's the float for it. These are the ones that would have gone on the catapults at the aft end of the ship. Really cool. We get 2 identical sprues here. Looks like this is mainly concerning a lot of the sensors and antennas that go on top of the superstructure, the radars. Also looks like the cranes that are at the aft end for lifting those airplanes out of the ocean after they've landed. I mean, it's this right here, stuff like this is going to need to be replaced in photo etch, of course, for it to look a little bit more to scale. But again, at this scale, what more can you do? Then they're already pretty thin. And one thing that always impresses me when you're really getting down to the fine details is how thin this plastic ribbing is here, how thin it is right there. It's amazingly good. Alright, looks like I skipped over 2 more sprues of Orlikins, ship boats, and Bofors. More superstructure, bridge parts, looks like some funnel parts. Exquisite. Just again, very, very exquisite detail here. Things look as close to in scale as they could get at 1 to 350th scale. And our last plastic sprue. Superstructure platforms, and looks like more funnel pieces here. These look like gun tubs. So I'm gonna try to again get this to focus a little bit. You can kind of see on these platforms here some of that detail just molded into the sides. And that's got a platform molded right into the side of it along with all this detail. That's an outstanding effort on the plastic molding. Alright, and I will get out the sheet of photo etch here in just a moment, but you also get a small bag with metal chain. This you may want to replace with a 2-scale chain that actually has the proper United States Navy links that has the cross piece on every link. It looks like we've got just a few decals here. And it looks like it'll allow you, it includes numbers and names for every ship in the Iowa class. In fact, that's what it's labeled as, is USS Iowa class battleship. So you have the numbers, the whole numbers, and then we'll have Missouri right down here with a important to note 48 star flag. Good attention to detail. Okay, let me clear some space here. I'll be right back with the single sheet of photo etch that came with the kit. Alright, yeah, I'm glad I got all that cleared off. I also had to adjust the lighting because this is in a clear plastic that's very shiny. The kit itself comes with a single sheet of photo etch. A lot of this is just railings for the superstructure. Looks like walk around and railings for the funnels, and a few other bits of detail here like the reels for the fire hoses, stuff like that. It's not really very comprehensive, but it is nice that you can put some additional detail into it just right out of the box. Like I said, with those big radar dishes that aren't really dishes, but you know, the big radar antenna, the circular ones, and the great one that looks like a big box spring mattress, those would definitely be better done in photo etch. But all in all, I would say that Verifiers put together a decently priced 1 to 350th scale USS Missouri kit. I got mine for about 150 US dollars. I've found some on eBay for $90, $95. It's eBay. You take your chances every time you buy something on there, regardless of how good the seller is. I've seen some online retailers offer the kit itself for $200. So it's just shop around, and if you buyer beware if you go on eBay. But because I am going to throw some photo etch at this to bring up the level of detail, I went ahead and bought Verifire's detail upsets kit made specifically for this kit. So I'll be right back with that to show you what I've got. Okay, lighting is back on here, so go ahead and look over exactly what you get in the detail upset by Verifire, again made specifically for the kit that I just showed you. First and foremost, most obvious, is these wonderfully detailed wooden deck pieces. 3M adhesive backed. And it's sometimes almost just an exercise in extreme patience and just to pick one of these pieces up. You can see how thin that is. Without the adhesive paper on the back, you can imagine how much thinner this is going to be. It's just very, very delicate. So I'm not going to go forward and show every little bit of that. Just do not want to take any chances at all with any damage to that. The problem with wood is once it's damaged, the recovery is not easy. I have 4 sprues here. Looks like life raft surrounds that'll go with photo etch bottoms for the life rafts. So you get 8 per sprue times 4, so that's 24. That's nice. And we got 4 little sprues here. It looks like these might be I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look into that to get back to you. But of note, there was one that's kind of bent and one here that's missing 2, and I could not find the missing 2 in the package, and we'll get to that here in a moment. We also put together some really nice 3D printed details. These are for the 40mm Bofors. I'll hold that up. Hopefully we can get some focus. You can see the barrels just against the palm of my hand. And then there is the actual main body of the gun platform. And you get 5 of those with 4 apiece in there, for a grand total of 20 Bofors. There's more 3D printed goodness here. So incredibly small part-wise that I just always take such great care in handling it because I don't want to break anything. The supports are incredibly thin, but the detail in these parts, the fidelity and resolution in which these were printed is mind-blowing. I've got 3D printers and they're resin 3D printers, and I can't produce anything near this quality. Trying to get this up closer here because it's a little bit smaller. Okay. Alright, so that's really cool. Be right back with some more of this wonderful set. So just bear with me on the lighting. As I put out build videos, we're going to be examining these a lot closer. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And what's really neat about this is you'll notice there's some duplication of efforts here in the kit. For instance, these shields right here, note that there's 20 of those. Those go to those Bofors that they 3D printed. The 16-inch triple mounts that I was pointing out that had such lovely detail on top, well, they've got tops that you can put on here in photo etch, and the detail is even better if that were possible. A lot of the superstructure sides detail is even better. So there's some of the ammunition racks that go inside some of the gun tubs. Crane pieces. The finesse with this photo etch. I mean, if we thought the plastic molding was good, take a look at this. This has got the I can't remember exactly what they're called, but they were big long float ropes that went on the back of the turrets. They're baskets, and they're see-through. All the railings, all the ladders, windows. So that's all the photo etch that came with this. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. There's more, though. We had turned aluminum and brass parts. Here's our 9-inch barrels. I can open this bag up with these great big clumsy fingers. There we go. I'll pull one out and have a look. I like the aluminum because it's not so heavy that it's going to cause your guns to droop if you want to put them in an up position. It's drilled out in the end as well. But also, because it's shiny aluminum, if you're going to put that band of shiny metal around it before it goes into the blast bag, it's already done for you. Just mask that off. "25-inch gun barrels." Again, I went out and have a look at it. These are brass. I'm going to use a pair of tweezers in order to fish one of these out. Again, it's drilled out in the end. You can't make that out quite on camera because it's about as thin as a needle. That's a 5-inch gun for the dual mounts in 1/350th scale. It's about as big as the barrels for the 20mm Oerlikons in 1/200. Then here's some various masked pieces. I believe these are, I'm going to say they were described as turret parts. And there's 6 of them in there. They're incredibly tiny. Alright, so that gets me to the last part of this review before we have a cursory look at the instructions. When I got the detail upset, it was missing all of this, and some of these parts were broken off. In addition, it was missing more turned parts because the USS Missouri had 49 or 50 20mm Oerlikon guns, and it did not have the turned barrels or the bases for those that were supposed to come in brass. I don't know where they went. I emailed the online retailer, and I emailed Verifier. Verifier responded like that immediately. And I got replacement parts shipped to me from China to Cincinnati, Ohio area within 12 days. 12 days. So outstanding turnaround considering the amount of distance that traveled. And one of the nice surprises is that the Oerlikon guns have been replaced by 3D printed parts, and in this case 2 pieces instead of multiple photo etch parts, the base of the gun and then the barrel of the gun. There's 2 parts, the barrel and the main gun mechanism along with a sight, and then the gun's base with the splinter shield. Now it is going to be nearly impossible for me to get the camera to focus on this properly, but we'll try. See if I can get it within the light. Here, let's try this. Okay, so there you can, right up front, make out the splinter shields with the bases. When we turn it to the side, you can kind of see how skinny those are. They almost disappear. And over here, you see the barrels. I actually put on my magnifying headset. Each barrel has a hollowed out tip. It's not just solid, it is hollowed out and it's drilled out so it looks like a barrel. How you would apply paint to that ever without it covering up that end is beyond me, but I don't know. We'll give it a shot. But I got 4 of these. There's 13 mounts in each of these little deals here. So I had a total of 52, which means I've got a couple spare. And then along with that, they also sent me the replacement sprues to replace that right there. In perfect shape. So my hat's off to Verifier. Outstanding job, outstanding kit, outstanding detail upset, great attention to accuracy and detail with everything. And then most importantly to me is the amount of customer service that went into fixing a mistake. Mistakes happen in kits or detail upsets. It's life. Things happen. We're human beings. But the fact that I got almost an immediate response and then the turnaround time and getting these parts to me, just mind-blowing again. So far this is my very first experience with Verifier, and I am blown away. So we'll move some of this aside, and we'll have a quick look at their instructions. So this is for the detail upset. They've verified that everything that's supposed to be here is here now that we've got the replacements for the Oerlikons and the turn brass parts. It's stapled up the top, and probably end up actually removing that. But this is what we would be doing with the Oerlikons prior to 3D printed parts. There's the 3D printed parts. You can see the detail that they've got in there from the CAD images. Directors, that's what those plastic parts are, is Mark 51 directors. This is what the turrets are supposed to look like. So those turned aluminum barrels fit right into blast bags instead of using the plastic kit parts. Okay. You can see we're replacing a lot of the decking here on some of these platforms in the bridge. Some catapults. Crane. Alright, here's more. You can see building up the superstructure. And it looks like some of these parts are not completely replacing the kit parts, but additive. Down here, the mast parts attaching to the funnel. A little bit of detail for the ship's boats, which is nice. The 3D hoist that goes on the side of the ship for bringing back up the ship's boats. Alright, and there's some of the parts that they had molded in plastic, which I said I'd prefer to have in photo etch. It looks much more to scale, much more detail, and I like it a lot. Yeah, as you can see, the chain does not have that crossed member on each one of the links, and that's okay. You can get 1/350th scale chain, and it's actually fairly cost effective. But you know, it's even got the boarding ladders. I would say the set is pretty comprehensive. It covers quite a bit of what kind of detail you would want to put into such a historic ship like this. It does not have the trillions of parts in a Ponto set, but it looks like it covers pretty much everything that a Ponto set would cover. Just so happens that a lot of the plastic in this kit is already so well detailed that it doesn't have to be replaced through brass. So again, excellent job, Verifier. Instructions, very, very similar to a Mark I set or a Ponto set, but that's okay. Here's the kit instructions. You just sprue them out, and you get a key as to what's going to be called out in the instructions. Pretty cool. Start with putting the whole halves together, propellers, propeller shafts, and then you get right to usually the fun business part of the ship, and it's putting together these gigantic cannons. You step down to the 5-inch. So we got some of the gun directors and the radars. And again, I think these are Kingfishers. Catapults, cranes. You have to do a lot of these assemblies. Looks like it calls out with an actual size. Holes that need to be drilled. Don't always see that in some trumpeter kits. Yep, that is the next page. Here we go, detailing up the foredeck. The stern or aft part of the ship, the deck right here, we'll start detailing up. The instructions, these instructions, this paper is very sturdy. It's not overly shiny. The print is pretty fine on it. The lines are pretty fine. So if it looks like and feels like this is out of focus, apologies. I had a heck of a time in trial runs here. Again, we're starting to detail up some of the superstructure bridge. So get all that completed. Once you get all that superstructure completed, it looks like that midships with superstructure plops right down onto the hull with the aft or stern section or the fore or bow section there. And then you put in the final 16-inch triple mount, and it's complete. Quick paint scheme there. One side, that I cannot remember for the life of me what the measures are, but they would both be applicable in that time frame. Oh, there we go. Why am I starting another ship? Because I've got a Yorktown and I've got an SR-71, and I've got various other projects here and there as well. Mainly I wanted something that was going to go together as it was intended to be put together and accurate. The SR-71 has been a dog of a kit. It's been really, really difficult to get that to where it is right now. So difficult that when I started it 2 years ago, I said to hell with it and I threw it up on a shelf. The Yorktown is so labor intensive to get it accurized that it's going to be just a gigantic project, and we're looking at 12 months, 24 months. I wanted something that I could put together that was well engineered, well detailed, accurate, and would just be enjoyable without me having to go back and look at resource after resource after resource in order to figure something out and how it was supposed to look versus how it was molded. That's what I want, so that's why I went with this kit. I like ships, and that's what I'm going to do. Eventually I'm going to start on the 1/350th scale Tamiya USS Enterprise CVN-65. It's supposed to go together wonderfully. It's supposed to be very accurate, but I bought a lot of detail sets for it to add that extra to it. But the biggest downside of that kit is it has no hanger deck. So I had to go out and get a resource, and so I can look into how I'm supposed to add a hanger deck to this thing, and that's going to be a gigantic undertaking as well. So this right here should be a little bit more enjoyable in putting it together as it was intended. I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you'll tune in to see the beginning and completion of this particular model ship. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, any feedback you'd like to provide about the kit or how it goes together or your experiences, please leave that for me below this video. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. Happy modeling.